So now we got to make some tenons to go with those mortises there. So I got a piece of scrap wood out of the scrap bin, and I'm gonna get it to fit in that mortise. Okay, this board here is 2 inches. The mortise is 2 inches. So from here to here is 2 inches. I want a little bit of wiggle room, so I'm going to rip this down to 1 3/4 of an inch. That way I can have some room to kind of slip that in or move it up and down. You'll see what I mean in a second here. So set up for 1 3/4 and make that cut, and I will catch up with you later. Okay, I got this cut to 1 3/4 this way. Now I want to narrow it down this way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it on the table saw like this. I could plane it all down too if you don't feel comfortable making that cut. I can make the cut for you, or you can plane it down on the planer. I'm going to get it close to the thickness that I need, but a little bit thicker. So this is 3/8 of an inch, so I'll make it around 7/16. Yeah, make it around 7/16, so just a 1/16 bigger than it needs to be. And we'll take the rest of that off on the big sander over there. So get the dust collectors on. All right, we're close. We're gonna take that board that's a little bit too thick for our mortises right now, and I'm gonna round over these corners real quick on the router table. So I got the router table set up with our quarter inch round over like we talked about in the router video, and on my test cut I saw it produced that right there, so it's always good to do a test cut to make sure it's what you expect. So I'm going to grab myself a push stick. Make sure the bearing is in plane with the fence. So that looks like this. So that the bearing rides on the board like the fence rides on that board at the same time. And so I'm going to route this on all 4 edges. We end up with a board that looks just like that. And then from there, we'll go over to the sander and then do the final sanding. So what we're going for here is a fit. Oh, look at that. So I got lucky here. on the table saw, apparently, I got a little closer than I thought I was to 7/16. So my piece of wood fits in there quite nicely. So we want a fit that's snug, but not too snug. You don't want to be able to, you'll be able to fit it in with your fingers and not hit it with a hammer or pull it out with pliers. So that's good. If it was too tight, which I was kind of planning on it, what I would do is run it through the sander and just kind of have my mortise here so I can kind of feel for, or see how it feels. So that's good. I can move on to the next step, which is cutting these to length. So to do that, I'm going to stick my piece of wood in the mortise and make a line. What I'm going to do is measure that line, double it, and subtract a little bit. So that should be around 3/4. It's 5/8. So from here to that line's 5/8. 5/8 plus 5/8 is 1 1/4. So we're going to go a little bit less than 1 1/4. So we're going to go 1 and let's go 1 1/8. So I'm going to cut all these to 1 1/8. And to do that, I use the chop saw. That little piece goes flying. So I'll use the band saw, which is not as accurate, but the piece of wood's not going to go flying. So what I'm going to do here is measure out 1 1/8 of an inch on my board, make a cut, and repeat that process. It's kind of tedious, but it's a safer way to go. I'll make a bunch of those and get back to you. All right, so I got all my mortises made. So what I'm going to do is make sure they fit in there. They look pretty good. Well, that one's not so good. Let's try another leg here. So this happens. This is the reason why I wasn't so fond of using the table saw. This part of this board was thicker. So when I was cutting the, hey, hold on. As I was saying, sometimes that table saw, like that one, fits really nice. When you put the pressure against the fence, sometimes that board will be thicker and thinner, thicker and thinner. If you run it through the big sander, you have more of a consistent result. So if I don't have the mortise fitting in the way I want it to, there's a little trick we can try. And that involves hitting it with a hammer, which sounds kind of barbaric, but it works sometimes. So if I get a hammer, make sure it's a metal hammer, not a wooden hammer, out of the toolbox, come back over here. Throw it on the ground because the concrete's better than the workbench for this. I'm just gonna give it a few whacks, and that's gonna crush the grain a little bit. Let's see if that fits now. Hey, so that's good. All right, so mortises are done, tenons are done. Next step is to start shaping the legs. We'll do that in the next video.